just go?
What just happened?
Why did they just disappear?
What the fuck was that?
It's just the recording started and then they just
The recording was like, nah, just you two.
All right, well, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I'm going to leave that all in, too. I'm going to leave that all in because that's a good summary, I think, of how this season is already starting off.
That's the good
Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, we are back. We're back. We've been, it's been a little bit of time since the Chiefs' opening round of the season, the opening game versus the Chargers. We've taken some time to digest our thoughts, and we're gonna go from there. So we've got a full cast of characters on the screen for you today. Kyle Henning on the top right of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
Ready to talk football, I guess, based on Friday night.
Yep, that's
all I got for you to open this with. I'm not gonna give you much else. That was as frustrating as it gets as far as an opener is concerned in a while. So
yeah,
I mean, almost. I guess watching Chris Jones sit in the press box was pretty frustrating that year. But other than that, it's been a minute since it's been that frustrating.
Yeah, that is true. Also joining us, Thomas Pike, Mr. Arrowhead. Tom, how you doing tonight, Tom?
I am. I tweeted this out after last week's episode. At some point, I'm just always thankful to be here and talk ball with you guys. This is a good escape and good time. Always good time. Even the chit chat and the chatter we have before the show. I appreciate each of you.
That you will never ever see.
That will never see the light of day. But yes, even when the game isn't as fun to talk about, it's still fun to talk about with you guys. So happy to be here.
Hell yeah. And last but not least, Mr. Randy Ellenberger. How you doing tonight, Randy?
I am doing awesome tonight. We've had a little bit of time to digest the, failure of Friday night. Like I said, I mentioned before last week, we had a game Friday night too, so I didn't get to see anything until about 12 minutes left. So after we got our butts kicked Friday night, I continued to watch us not play up to what we were all hoping and expecting. So Friday night was not a great football night for me.
Yeah, no kidding. Friday night, boy, we can just scratch that one from the record books. Although some people are putting it
one dry erase right. Clean that up. We're going to start anew this week.
Yeah, we'll erase that from the record books. There are some teams who are hanging banners for that game.
That is one of the wildest quotes.
That one's going to go down in Chargers lore, ladies and gentlemen.
That is one of the wildest quotes I've ever seen from a head coach, ever.
Big win. Telling you what, week one.
He even put the date in there. Yeah. September 5th will go down in Sir, if your lore is short enough that a week one game goes in your lore, I don't know if that's a good thing.
I mean, but when you think about it, that's right. I mean,
it's one of their biggest accomplishments.
Sit right there with all the Super Bowl rings they don't have.
Yeah.
What else are they going to put in the trophy case?
Exactly. They don't got a lot.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
it's just,
right.
Like I said, if that's like chapter...
There are a lot of preseason AFC West Championship trophies in that trophy case.
That is true. That is true.
If that's like chapter 3 in your lore book, that's not good.
That would be like, let me...
Still writing the story. Tom just froze. What just happened to Tom?
Tom was talking too when he froze.
Yeah.
That's not.
He tried.
He's like,
Tom really tried to.
On to Cincinnati.
Welcome back, Tom. We didn't hear anything.
If they were like, that's it, no, it's just not it. Not it.
Well said, Tom. We didn't really catch half of what you just said.
We didn't catch that, but I'm sure it was pure gold.
And I'm sure it was passionate and well delivered and funny. Yeah. You're such a funny.
It always is.
I'm super articulate too. Like that was phrased beautifully.
Okay, so let's just.
Hey guys, I don't know if you noticed, but the technology is working in our favor this evening.
We're just having a great night. We're
the technology is working as well as the Chiefs played on Friday, and we're letting it roll. We're gonna put the product out in the field as it is, whether we're ready or not. So
that was the Chiefs' MO. It seemed like that Friday night. So let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get into it. First and foremost, the Chiefs just they came out very flat. That was the word that basically described the whole game. Andy Reid in the post game basically said that his team was flat and they had no energy, and that's just a great thing to hear. Week one, woo, first game of the year. Let's everybody get juice. Nope, they're flat. That's
after you got your ass handed to you in the last time you were on the field.
Yeah, so not the greatest, back-to-back games for the Chiefs. You have two games where you basically have looked the exact same and with a 6-month gap in between them. At least we didn't give up as many points this time. Not to say that the defense looked any better. They might have even looked worse than the last time we saw them in an organized football game. So we're gonna dive into it. Starting obviously with just a phenomenal opening series from the Chiefs in which Xavier Worthy goes down on the third play of the game. Him and Travis Kelce running a mesh concept, doing a couple crosser routes over and under, and he just gets absolutely laid out by Kelce and doesn't see him coming. Instantly goes down. Instantly you can tell that it was a very, very severe impact that he just withstood, and that's kind of that was a horrible way to open the game.
It's a quick way to get the wind knocked out of your sails.
Yeah. Wind and a whole lot more. That was kind of I feel like the overarching theme of what the sideline kind of reaction was. Is a lot of people, a lot of high hopes, a lot of big explosive plans for the offense, and you have Xavier Worthy as your wide receiver one, and he goes down the third play of the game, and it's something like that where it's just, the Chiefs have had too many of these incidents the past couple of years with Rashee Rice last year. Now this happening with Xavier. It just feels like we're cursed to not have a fun wide receiver room ever again. I don't know how you guys feel, but it seems
also
like
always against the Chargers.
That's true. Yeah, it was. I didn't even put two and two together, but
yeah,
that's a heck of a way to
Chargers. Rashee, Week 1, Xavier. At that moment, you basically take the game plan and run it through the paper shredder, because without Rashee, the offense's focus is Xavier and Travis, with sprinklings of the other wide receivers. So when you lose your go-to on snap, what, 3?
3.
Because it was third down and he was going to get the first down pretty much without effort, except for he got smoked. Everything you game plan for, everything you plan to do, all of your draw ups, everything goes directly out the window as soon as that happens. And it was almost immediately evident he wasn't coming back into that game, because he was trying to put his shoulder back in place, like as he was laying on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's a good way for a team that was already on a bus for 2 hours to get to the stadium and on the long travel. And I know both teams travel to the same place. That's not the point. But with all of the extenuating factors, and you're already down your number 1 wide receiver, and you lose your wide receiver 2 instantly, it's going to change your game plan, and not in a productive way. And when that happens, it's extremely difficult to have rhythm, because now you're 3 and out instead of a first down and continuing your first 15-play script. Your first 15-play script and the rest of your game plan are now gone, because one of the main keys in that 15-play script and game plan is no longer in the football game. Mm-hmm. It's a complete redo of everything, and it's yes, they're really good at adapting and all that, but it's really hard to adapt that quick drive to drive. So just a really bad way to start the entire game, and it kind of fed into the rest of the game. It felt a little bit like a Bad News Bears game.
Yeah. To Kyle's point, and again, no excuses, right? Both teams went. Even if you want to look at the bus stuff,
they're professional athletes.
They're professionals. Again, no excuses. But I think the context matters, and I think my biggest concern thing is it felt like mentally, just even watching body language. We talked about this before when this team was clicking, how they have some of that, hey man, my fault, keep it up. There seemed to be a lot we talk about like a Super Bowl hangover. My biggest concern is that this team is going to lose its identity as a team that is resilient and can overcome the adversity. And that's why, like, just even that opening sequence, like it felt like that took so much of the wind out of the sails. But I think like it just the biggest concern I had was, are they going to implode when they hit those speed bumps? We've seen it happen plenty of times, but the one of the signature pieces of this team when they've won championships is overcoming adversity. So it's scary to me when that piece doesn't come out, or doesn't, at least we don't see it. I saw some body language and that type of thing that made me go, whew. But yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It definitely wasn't pretty. Just the whole energy, it seemed like, of the team, obviously with such a major injury like that, and the rest of the offense, obviously, like we mentioned, just kind of thrown out the window. You don't really, a lot of the preparations you have to change. You have to insert guys into positions that they weren't already prepared to. Just really threw off a lot of the mojo of the offense. We'll break down. Let's break down a couple of the key pieces of the offense here, because throughout the night it was kind of, like anything, they're going to have a slow start, like most teams seem to have this weekend, which was a little bit reassuring. But they did pick it up a little bit more during the third and fourth quarters, having to find some guys to fill in some certain spots. The run game, that's another problem that we're going to probably dissect. Offensive line, we're going to talk about some of those pieces. The offensive line looked okay in some instances. I think there's a lot of promise. Yeah, it's just when that happens to you, it's really tough. Randy, I know you're a big, you were relying on Xavier Worthy a lot for a lot of things. I know a lot of people were in their fantasy leagues and everything like that. So how are you supposed to bounce back after that? How do you like, obviously it takes the leadership of the team to kind of pick everybody else up, and that seems similar to how it was in the Eagles Super Bowl matchup, where it's just it started off bad early and no one was able to pick them up.
Yeah, that's where you got to turn and you got to lean on your bets, like the guys that have been there before, the guys that have done it over and over and over. Travis feels terrible about him running his route at an incorrect depth, and we talked about that on the New Heights podcast. He feels bad for taking out Worthy, and as a 13-year vet, he feels he should have known better. But in that split second when you're running that play and you're trying to adjust and set up your guy, and you can lose track of a yard here and there, and that happens all the time with wide receiver depth on routes and stuff like that. But when it comes to losing a key piece in a room that was already kind of a huge question mark coming into it, you really got to lean on those vets. So now, you saw Hollywood have 10 catches for 100 yards. I think Travis is going to have a big game this week. Juju, I think Juju is going to have to play big this week. And like I mentioned in the pre-show just a little bit, we might see a lot of 13 personnel this week, getting 3 tight ends out there and just finding a way to create mismatches with the personnel that we have that's healthy, that can create some mismatches. So, you look at the wideout room now, like you got Hollywood and Juju going 1-2, and then it's Thornton, Nico, Brownlee, like that's who we got left. So I think you're gonna see a lot of Kelsey and Noah Gray sets. I think hopefully we see a little bit of Bobby Tonyan in there too. So,
you're missing 1, 2, and 4.
So it's tough. Jalen Royals is still hurt. He's not playing yet. We'd like to see him, out there doing something, but you also don't want to lean too heavily or expect way too much out of a 4th-round rookie draft pick as well. Granted, should he have been drafted higher? Yeah, probably. Are we all excited about the potential that he has? Absolutely. But to expect a ton now, especially coming off an injury and training camp and whatnot, like get ready for some baby steps. Like there's going to be a learning curve, but now you need to lean on those guys that have been there, done that, battled through some adversity, like we had mentioned. Like those are the guys you have to look at. So,
well, and Randy, your point about running the multi-tight end sets. One, we didn't hardly see Robert Tonyan on the field. I don't think much, which I thought was a bit of a surprise based on everything we watched them do in the preseason with him and with Noah and with the tight ends in general. I also think if you're going to be missing wide receiver 1, 2, and 4, you have to have a run game, and you have to have a run game. If you're going to use the multi-tight end set, it gives your run game a better chance. You're adjusting your numbers in the box. You're adjusting your ability from a blocking perspective, and then you can run. Well, I mean, Jesus, we watched our defense get turned into Swiss cheese by the play action pass over and over and over and over again.
And it's not like San Diego didn't even run the ball that well. I mean, their ball fakes were spectacular, which is a huge piece of that game. But usually you have to establish that run to have people fear it before that happens.
And that's the part where when you run the multi-tight end set, you can do some different things with that play action, because now you've got linebackers covering tight ends, because you've got 3 tight ends on the field or 2 tight ends on the field, and they're not going to be in. Most defenses aren't playing nickel and dime against 2 and 3 tight end sets. It's just not what's going to happen. So and I know we talked about it, that was not part of the original game plan, because that's not how they anticipated having to run their offense last week. But now that you have to make that adjustment. And so that's one thing I'm watching for, and we'll get into the game that's coming up this weekend on Friday, I'm sure, when we do our live. But that's one thing I'm going to be watching, is what adjustments are made in regards to the personnel that we now have and what they can do to help out this offense in this run game, because the guy that tried to drag them is the guy that always tries to drag them. Pat went out after all of that stuff happened and just started doing everything. I'm going to take this. This is on me. I'm going to start running dudes over, and we're getting out of the pocket and getting mobile and being active. And he's going to have to be that for the next 3 or 4 weeks. He's going to have to do every bit of what Pat does when it's November and December and January and February. It's going to have to be that earlier this year.
And as we're kind of just sitting here talking as it was all doom and gloom. Like, we didn't let the game
get
away.
By 3.
Yeah, we didn't let the game get away from us in the first half, as bad as it was. And you come out in the third and fourth quarter, like, we score that touchdown. It's 18-20. We go for 2, don't get it. That next touchdown shouldn't have been a touchdown. Blatant holding on Najee Harris.
Whatever. Stop him. There was that one account that went on and combed through the whole game, and
like as poorly as we think we played, it was still a close game down to the end.
There's holding on every play, Garrett, but egregious, blatant holding that two referees are looking at it and decide that they're not looking at it because they aren't paying attention to their job.
I get it.
That's a problem.
You still gotta stop them.
You do. You do have to stop them, but you also
gotta stop them. And the defense.
You also have to have
all day.
You also have to have, and this is a conversation that I've had for a decade across every game, every weekend. These are basic things that these officiating crews are absolutely botching across the whole league. It happens every game, every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because the only day they don't play on is Tuesday unless it's Christmas. It happens all the time. The players are held accountable. Coaches are held accountable. The officiating crews have to start being held accountable. We watched it happen in college.
That's true. Yep, that's true.
The Big 12 officials that officiated the KU Mizzou game are now suspended for a game because they don't even know the punt kickoff rules. Yeah. So they're now out. So at least it's happening at the college level, but at some point things have to be held accountable across the board.
That's true. We're getting a little off track, I feel like. Let's get back to the offense. I just hate talking about the officiating, especially last year. That was like the main conversation every game. And this is a game that was not decided by the refs even a little bit. So it shouldn't even be. We got our asses kicked with or without the refs. So let's just make that clear. We ain't got to worry about
it. They got
that.
Outplayed. I don't know that they got their asses kicked, but they did get outplayed.
I was going to say, I don't know. It was a disappointing game. And this is, to the same point that we made earlier about teams celebrating this win, like it's the Super Bowl. On the flip side, our Tuscaloosa fans were out wild and over one international loss. Right? International games are hard. Like again, do I like it? Is it okay? No, I expect to win that game. I do. Is it the end of the world? Do we need to go fire Brett Veach? Do we need to go?
The end of the world, definitely not.
I mean, but those are some of the things, guys. We lost by 6 points, right? It was the first one score loss that this team suffered, and 17 one-score games. Like
it's been like 3 seasons.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great and all. That is great and all. That doesn't. I don't think the stats.
Garrett wants to be Tuscaloosa fan.
I'm not. I'm trying to explain my point, but I keep on getting overridden. I'm trying to let it be known to you guys that the final score is all fine and dandy. If you watch that game, the Chiefs didn't show up. If your name wasn't Patrick Mahomes, you didn't show up to play that game. Straight up. And the fact that it was close enough is a testament to the fact that the Chargers suck, and that the Chiefs' bottom floor is still good enough to almost beat a middle-of-the-pack team that didn't even make the playoffs.
I think that's a little rude to Drew Tranquil, but that's fine.
Drew did fine on a couple of dialed-up blitzes. He did. The rest of the game, I don't know. I can't say he was stopping much else besides those two blitz sacks that he had. but yeah.
Garrett, I just had a revelation as you were speaking.
Okay.
What are we? I need a listener who has more free time than I do. What are the statistics for wins and losses when Patrick Mahomes completes one of his crazy pirouette sideways body passes? Because he had like 2 of them in this game.
Yeah, right?
Where he literally parallel. It was not quite as. It might have been more impressive positioning wise than the Super Bowl one, and he completed it. But now I'm going. It feels like every time we see that from Pat, we lose a game.
Well, yeah, because it's usually him having to play hero ball and put the team on his back, and then usually the entire team around him still lets him down, and that was kind of the case today. I mean, they figured it out a little closer in the third and fourth quarter, and kind of got their heads out of their ass a little bit during halftime. But make no mistake, that should be a performance that is not viewed in any kind of good light. I get it's an international game, and we kind of skipped the whole overall. I'm going to like an overall arching feel of the game, but that did not feel like a game that the Chiefs were prepared for, and it definitely seemed like a game that, I mean, they got beat. Like, this final score was close. They got beat though, pretty bad in most facets of the game. Let's get back to the offense though, to kind of segment some other issues with this team. We highlighted the running game a little bit. That seemed to be a topic throughout the entire rest of the weekend, watching some of the other dynamic running backs in the league pop off. Bijan Robinson, boy, I would love to have a Bijan Robinson right now. But big thing is that the fact that, the run game not being a threat, there being no play action running off of the run game because there is no threat, seemed like a lot of the play calls were more of a drop back style, something that we've seen the past few years is kind of their bread and butter. Let's just keep on dropping back and hoping that someone creates an opening. And when you have, when you're down your top 2 wide receivers, there's not a lot of space and separation being created from the rest of the group. So that was a big disappointment for me, obviously seeing the lack of run game, the lack of productive run game, and highlighted some of our worries this offseason that there were running back room problems. And I don't know, that's going to keep on getting louder as these weeks progress.
Well, I think part of it has to do with. Go ahead.
No, so one thing that it continues to kind of drive me nuts is that we sit here and we talk about the run game, and we go back to the Super Bowl and it was like non-existent. What did we have? We had 4 attempts at halftime or something, and we come back here and I just pulled up the game stats. We had 17 rushing attempts, 6 by Pat. Like, we literally handed the ball to Pacheco 5 times and Kareem 5 times. Like, this can't continue to happen. Like, in order to like have your play action be worth a damn, like, you have to have some kind of attempt to run the football. And I'm sorry, 10 carries by your top 2 running backs throughout an entire game is unacceptable in any game plan. Like,
then you're going to have to take the decision making out of Patrick's hands. If we're being honest, they call 2 to 3 plays when they walk up to the line. He diagnoses what he wants, and they go from there. Most of the time, it's an RPO when they go to the run game at this point. They don't really run traditional style running plays. It's not something Andy Reid's ever done, but they do it a hell of a lot less now even than they did when he had Brian Westbrook. So if you want more than 10 or 11 or 15 carries, they're going to have to go to a more traditional run call to where Patrick can't pull it and throw it, because a lot of what is happening, and they've talked about it with the play calls. He gets 1 or 2 play calls that they're in the same formation. He walks up to the line, they diagnose what they want to do, and just about every time he's going to call his own number, especially in games they're losing.
And I don't blame him.
And he feels like he has to do it all.
Yeah.
So if
most of the time he does,
a lot of it has to do with they don't call running plays very often, or if they do, they're check out running plays that he can either audible out of, check out of, or decide after the ball is snapped to not give it to the running back and keep it himself. So there's a little bit of, if you want to guarantee, the Kareem stuff from last year where they made him the ball 30 times or whatever in like 20 to 25 plus carries for like 5 weeks in a row right after he got off the couch. Mm-hmm. They were calling a lot more traditional style run plays. He was under center. They were in running formation. There's a lot more of that. That wasn't the game plan going into this. They thought they were going to have a different wide receiver core. They didn't expect to use the tight ends as much. That's what I was talking about earlier with wanting to see what they're going to do with this Philadelphia defense, because the reason that Philadelphia was so successful last year during the Super Bowl is they didn't have to worry about the run because they knew they were going to throw the ball the whole game. And they didn't have the offensive line to protect him with that group of speed guys. Now, be a little bit different game if Jalen Carter wasn't playing in this one after spitting on a quarterback. But apparently, ejection is a suspension if you listen to the league rules. Or the league's ruling. But it's going to be interesting to see how they attack Philly, and if they're going to go into those traditional runs, as we're talking about with the multiple tight end sets earlier. You have to call more runs for the run game to be more effective, because they're the only team in the league that didn't run the ball for 0 yards. If you go like that came out, yeah, they're the only team in the league that didn't have a 0-yard running play. However, as Randy pointed out, they called 11 running plays.
Well, technically that stat's not correct because Xavier Worthy had 1 carry for 0 yards.
I think it was on a sweep, but I think it was designated to running backs.
Yeah, they cherry picked that one pretty good. Yeah,
it's Warren Sharp. He cherry picks almost every data set he puts out.
You make some good points, Kyle, about the fact. I think really the problem, and that's one of my notes from the game, because it's for the viewers. I wrote a bunch of notes while watching live Friday night. A lot of my frustrations.
No one else can read them. They look handwritten, but.
Yeah, no, you're not supposed to read them. If you were to read them, you'd probably be offended. So I had some pretty harsh words for a lot of people.
Proof that there are notes.
And one of my notes was they don't run good blocking plays, and that it might have been a little silly in a sense, but
you talking about the blocking schemes?
Yeah, and especially for the running game. And my big thing, and Kyle mentioned this, like the RPOs and stuff, it feels like every time they run a running play, right, this is what the offensive line does. Ready? They go, spread out. Everybody just spread out. And then you just have 5 guys isolated, and then you're just having to rely on someone to make a guy miss. And it just feels horrible. Like watching their running game, it just feels horrible because it just feels like there's no flow, there's no rhythm to it. And there's not a lot of traditional running where you're running simple inside zones or guard pulls or anything like that. It just seems like it's, like Kyle said, it's a lot of RPO stuff that's just kind of, well, let me look at the defense real quick. All right, good luck, Pacheco. Have fun trying to send it in there and just run into a bunch of guys who don't seem very coordinated blocking. I don't know what blocking schemes that they're good at versus bad at. I couldn't isolate that for you, but it doesn't look good when you're watching it. It feels like
so with the RPO, it's because they're what you're talking about with them all spreading out. When they run those RPOs, that's basically what they're doing because they're pass setting.
Yeah, it's a pass. Yeah, exactly.
At the same time as they're run blocking, so it's a half and half. When they run their traditional run plays, then the problem becomes sometimes one of the running backs mentioned doesn't necessarily see holes all that well, or where he should run the ball. Like, for example, if he stays outside of Josh Simmons on the one he got out on, he scores.
Exactly.
And so it's hard for Andy to be like, yeah, I want to run traditional running formations when potentially the guy that's back there doesn't see the hole. Now,
that's another problem. Yeah.
On that same note, you have to. Because even if they get 9 or 10 instead of 30 or 40, they still got 9 or 10. And it makes it a threat. But Kareem had a 12-yard run, and they swear to God, I don't think they handed the ball the rest of the night after he had the 12-yard run. It didn't feel like they did. And so...
But it's like you have to have that threat. You have to have a good balance, because otherwise we just end up watching teams just tee off and go straight pass rush on us. And then, yeah, I mean, guys are going to give up pressures when there's no threat of the actual run game. So every single guy they put in there is just going straight pass rush mode. Pat's gonna get flushed. He's gonna get nervous. He's gonna have to play hero ball because there's nothing to moderate or to slow that pass rush down.
I'll say this, other than 1 or 2 isolated incidents on the pass rush side, they seem to hold up pretty damn well in the pass protection.
For the most part, absolutely. They did better than I expected when it comes to
your left tackle concerns. I know it was one game.
Still, that's 40 snaps with no sacks and pressures. So.
I don't have too many concerns going forward with that position.
Let me jump in real quick on and Randy. I know you know O-line speak too, so I'm going to try to. So when you're running an RPO, yes, your offensive line has to set in pass protection, because if they get too far upfield, then you get hit with the illegal man upfield penalty. The idea behind why an RPO would work is because you are betting on the defensive lineman getting aggressive, especially your ends, getting upfield, right outside, and then you create those gaps. Some of this is because Pat is who Pat is. Teams learned early on, if you get too far upfield as a defensive end, you're going to give him room to run. So they play that pretty one-dimensionally, where they are set those edges set on or the end players set on setting an edge, right, and that works in their favor.
Yeah.
Well, they don't give up the B gap as much, because that's where Pat usually escapes to.
Yeah, but from the running back perspective, when you give them that, one, the running lanes aren't going to be there, so you're not going to hand off as much. But also, your running backs have less room, because again, it's similar to a halfback draw, right? You want to kind of get those ends way upfield and behind the running back, and then you hand off the ball late, and then he's got they're 5 yards behind him, nothing to worry about. It just doesn't work all that way. I mean, teams don't play the same. I mean, that's part of the evolution of the NFL. The criticism for running the ball is valid. I also want to point out that we talked about them coming out flat, and we've said this before. There's no team that beats the Chiefs more than the Chiefs beat the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to point this out. Okay, second drive of the game, 11-yard run, 1-yard run, 10-yard pass, negative 5-yard penalty, 6-yard pass, incomplete pass, incomplete pass.
Who's that penalty on?
Drop. Incomplete pass drop on third down, by the way.
Penalty, that first penalty was Josh Simmons' false start. Here's another one. Second quarter, 6-yard pass, 3-yard pass, 4th and 1, 6-yard run, 1st and 10, 6-yard run, 4-yard pass, 4-yard run, 5-yard pass. Creed Humphrey fumbles, 6-yard pass, 10-yard penalty, 16-yard pass, 10-yard run, pass incomplete, 1-yard pass, 8-yard sack. That drives in a field goal. Ends in a field goal, went 59 yards, took 9 minutes. Even the game, the end of the half, right when we're going, we got that
gift.
We got the field goal, 2 5-yard penalties for false starts on that one, right?
Who are those on, Tom?
Back to back, if I'm not mistaken.
One on each tackle.
Jawaan Taylor and Simmons.
Yep. Yeah. Here we go. Third quarter, 11-yard run. First and 10. Penalty, 10 yards. 14-yard pass.
Another penalty.
4-yard run. 13-yard pass. 7-yard pass.
Hold on to him.
5-yard penalty. Pass incomplete.
Another penalty. Yards. Wow, 74 again.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that one ended. So that one ended in a touchdown, but it took us 5 minutes, and we're playing from behind at that point. I'm looking. Here's the other thing. When we scored, fourth quarter, 5-yard run, pass incomplete, 12-yard pass, 2-yard run, 4-yard pass, 5-yard run, touchdown. No penalties. Right? When they aren't beating themselves, they do pretty good. And I know, listen, I am the biggest advocate on this podcast to make sure that we are talking about players with respect and with remembering their humanity and that type of thing. Jawaan Taylor, there's no more excuses, bub. And there's no excuses, coaching staff. You've got a tackle. You've got a swing tackle who's competent. I understand when Jawaan Taylor is locked in and engaged in the actual play, if he can get to the play without committing the penalty, he's actually a really good tackle. Unfortunately, those penalties are affecting the chemistry and the flow of the offense as a whole. And as a coaching staff, you have to address that.
Well, his Hall of Fame tight end did in the huddle right after he committed 2 in a row.
Yeah, gave him a good old headbutt.
He walked up and chewed his ass.
Yeah, that's my biggest. That's one of my biggest things going forward. You have to bench Jawaan. I mean, that was the biggest. That was the one thing I wrote in all caps on my notes right here. Bench Jawaan. You can't. It doesn't matter how good of a tackle he is. You cannot have those 4. He had 4 penalties this game, I believe, in total.
Yeah.
You just can't have that. And if it was a one-time thing, it's fine. It's been 3 years now, and I get that Chris Collinsworth highlighted him and started a little bit of a public witch hunt. I don't care anymore. I really don't care anymore. It's been 3 years now. I'm over it. Every time he gets a penalty, I'm gonna tweet out bench Jawaan, and it's not gonna affect anything in the grand scheme of things of the world. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna fight the good fight, because it is absolutely ridiculous seeing these drives get just disrupted because 74. It's always a penalty on 74. It's holding or a false start or what. It doesn't matter. And Josh Simmons, I can excuse because it's his first NFL game. He has a couple false starts. I get it. You don't get it anymore with Jawaan Taylor. There's no more wiggle room. There's no more leash. You paid Jalen Moore like $20 million or whatever. You have to put him in there. The drop off of play cannot be that bad that the penalty issue is not going to be fixed. Like, you have to fix that, and it's something that he's obviously not going to fix. He hasn't fixed it in the past 3 years. You got to make a change. You just straight up have to make a change.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I
don't agree, but there's no point in me going back and forth. We've done this argument 1,000 times.
I know, Kyle. I know you love Jawaan. I know he is.
I don't love him, but I also don't. I'm not going to. I have never watched a color commentator that most of the general public thinks is a moron influence a game, the way one individual is called versus the rest of the league that does the exact same thing that is not called. It's one of the more frustrating things that's happened from this whole experience with the whole everything's on prime time thing. Yes, he has to clean some of this up. Yes, it should have been fixed a while ago in some of these instances. But as Tom already said, when the play is happening and not the pre-snap stuff, because Garrett, he may have had 4, but 3 of them were pre-snap. 1 of them was an actual penalty during the play. He had 1 holding penalty. You're going to get holding penalties occasionally, especially when you throw the ball 65 times a game. It's going to happen.
Penalty game, I'm cool with it. That's your 1 penalty of the game.
But
the
problem is he's officiated differently because they see the number 74. and they've heard all of the things because they're human beings. That's why they make so many goddamn mistakes and seem to get away with it. But at some point, yes, he has to make an adjustment. I don't know that he can at this point.
That point
because
is now. Now is the point he needs to make the adjustment.
He's built into it. I understand what you're saying.
We
he's
had
also
the same
again not
conversation
doing
2 years
anything
ago,
differently than what they are doing. You can go turn on the tape of about 30 other tackles that in the league that do the same thing and not see the same number of penalties called. It's just a fact. It's fine that's a problem for this team. But and yes, Tom is correct. They've got to stop shooting themselves in the foot. You also don't. You're just now getting the left side of the line together. The three on the right have been together for 3 years. So jacking with that chemistry 5 minutes into a season off of one game in a foreign country is not what I'm not interested in disrupting that. I'm not. If you want to talk to me in week 6, fine.
I'd argue the chemistry on the right side has not been.
I'd
argue the chemistry on the right side has not been very good the past few years anyways. The right side was almost at some points last season a bigger problem than the left side was. And it's not necessarily all Trey's fault. I mean, it seemed we talked about a lot of times where he'd come out here and say he does, like, him and Jawaan just they're not gelling. Whatever it is, they're not gelling. They can't handle twists and stunts and anything like that. Like, it's just a problem. And I don't think you're losing that much by switching him out to Jalen Moore. I really don't.
We have no idea. We've not seen Jalen Moore play a real snap for this team, especially at right tackle.
And that's how confident
remember, Jalen Moore played left tackle in San Francisco. He was Trent Williams' backup, not the right side. And Mitch Schwartz has told you, as Mitch Schwartz has told anybody that will listen, it is not as simple as going from right to left. It is a totally different motion. It is a totally different set of technique. It's the opposite. It's basically like looking in a mirror because you're flipping your feet, you're flipping your hands, you're flipping everything. So I understand everybody's all up in arms, but this fan base loves to have certain people that they turn into this guy's just terrible every year. And he's been added to that list since the Collinsworth game, the first two games of the season 3 years ago, and it's never changed. They've done it, and you can go pull up a laundry list of names. This fan base has done it too.
If the penalties would disappear, then he would disappear off people's lists, but they haven't disappeared.
But also,
he wouldn't. Because you can say that all you want, but they did the same shit to McCole, and McCole disappeared all the crap everybody complained about, and everybody still shit on him every chance they got, every single time. It's the same
that doesn't
story
change
over and over again.
You watch, Jawaan Taylor hasn't fixed any of his technical or his process or his just the way he plays the game. Like, he hasn't made a change to anything that he does to fix the problems that he constantly creates. Like, I'm just looking as an O-line coach, looking at his
as a what?
As an O-line coach. Just me looking at his
the Chiefs O-line coach?
Yeah, he's a great O-line coach. Andy Heck, yeah, he does terrible.
Is he?
He does a terrible job with tackles. We've been through that. But I'm saying, like, if we keep bagging on Jawaan because Jawaan's not getting any better, and in fact, he's probably regressing. His stance is terrible. The way he times his punches is terrible. He over lunges. He plays high. His feet are slow. Like, he has a terrible base. He does all these things. His pre-snap jump, where he jumps a little early, like most tackles try to do because they time the snap count, or they time the cadence. Like, he has to do all these things to try to gain some kind of advantage because he's not very good. He is a average at best NFL tackle. He's average. And right now he's going from average to below average because he's not doing anything to get better. His game has not improved in 3 years. So we can bag on the false starts, the pre-snap because he jumps a little bit too quick, but we can still look at the fact that he sucks with the hand placement. He can't move his feet. He's not fast enough. He can't handle a bull rush. He has tons of penalties every year, whether it's pre-snap or holding. Like, he's a problem. And maybe Jalen Moore is not the answer. I don't know. We're not in that room every day. We don't see practice every day. But what I do see on every Sunday or whatever game the Chiefs play on, I see a right tackle that is subpar. And if he's playing subpar and we don't know what the other guy has to offer, Put the other guy in there, see what he has to offer. If he falls flat on his face, Jawaan gets his job back. If he doesn't fall on his face, we might have a new player. But we're not going to have anything change unless we make an attempt to change something. You can't just sit the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same shit over and over and over, expecting a different result. We know what Jawaan has to offer, and it's not very good right now. Put the other guy in, give him a shot.
So let's split the middle here for a minute, because I think Kyle is like, two things can be true, multiple things can be true. I agree with Kyle. I've never seen a player who gets targeted based on that one moment, because this is going to suck because I'm bringing up the Eagles, but this is before Jawaan Taylor. Before this conversation was about Jawaan Taylor, this conversation was about Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Right. And there are other tackles who do it. I will also say, to Randy's point, his stance, all that stuff that has changed. We know that he was battling a knee injury last year, and it's hard when you're a big guy, right? So is some of that catching up with him possible? I think once he's engaged, once the play is going, I'm fine with how he plays on most plays, right? I would say I slightly disagree. I think he's at least average, but when you factor in those lost yards, it offsets in a lot of way. Whether that is Jawaan's fault entirely, because if you take that component out of his game and then he's getting beat around the edge constantly, now he's not any good. So it's not an entirely fair analysis, like, for Jawaan, because he's not being held to a same standard as others. I just think we saw them do this a couple years ago, where they pulled him out, let him reset, and I think you have a better option to stabilize some of that play. And even if it's not just to reset, it's to just get the heat off. Because, like, again, I'll even, to what Kyle was saying, there's a point where people are looking for things, right? Officials are looking for things. And it affects the game. So I don't think it's as black and white on either side to go, okay, it should just automatically be this. But it has been, and it is, when the Chiefs struggle, it's part of that. And when you account for almost half of your team's penalties, like one player, they had 10 penalties in total. I think Jawaan had 4. So, me, just from a coaching perspective, and I know he's a professional, all that, you got to tweak it. And here's the other part: those false start penalties really do, like, they're killer because of the nature of them, right? Like, they happen before the play, it's reset, and then now you're playing behind the chains. So
you lose a play. I mean, you lose a play, you lose momentum. Any kind of momentum that you had, if you have a good look that you're looking at pre-snap, all of a sudden false start, that play's out. Can't use that play anymore. Go on to the next one. We had a great situation dialed up for this, second and short or whatever. Never mind. We're back in second and long. It's just, we could harp on it for a little bit longer. I'm sure this isn't going to last time that we're going to mention his name, because I'm sure there's going to be more penalties in his future, and we'll just see how long they leave him out there. Because eventually,
I can live with the penalties, right, and them happening. I can't live with them being strung together like they were in this game, where it's clear that either he's in his head or he's being picked on.
There was two penalties within like 5 IRL minutes, even less than that, I think. I tweeted out, "Oh, great, another Jawaan penalty," and then less than 3 minutes later, retweeted it with the same thing. He less than 3 real life minutes later, he committed another penalty.
Yeah.
Like that, how are you supposed to have a good drive like that? If your offense is already handicapped as it is, and then, all right, let's just throw in a bunch of random drive-killing penalties. That's where I'm at. So let's hop over to the defensive side of the ball, because we've surprisingly, if you've made it this far, we've talked for 50 minutes about the offense, and you would actually argue that was the better side of the ball for the Chiefs on Friday, which is saying something. The defense, looked even flatter than the flat description that Andy Reid came out with after the game. I don't even know where we should start on this one. First and foremost, Rich Eisen, I hope I never have to hear him call an NFL game again. I'll just put this out here right there. Every single Justin Herbert drop back. Oh, they're throwing it again. Oh, they're throwing it again. Wow, they're throwing it again. Wow, it's another throw. Obviously, Rich, we don't have a pass rush. Why are you so surprised that they're throwing the ball again? We don't have a pass rush. We have 4 tackling dummies out there standing in front of their offensive line every time they drop back. Yeah, obviously they're going to keep on passing the ball, Rich. Golly, that pissed me off more than anything, having to hear every single drop back. Another pass. Yeah, I get it. They wanted to run the ball. That's Jim Harbaugh's whole thing. When you're playing a defense that has no pass rush, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that you throw the ball on them, and you have a very great success rate because you're sitting in the pocket for 4 seconds and not getting a finger laid on you. So that was my kind of thought about the defensive performance in a grand overall theme. What were your guys' thoughts on the defense's lackluster performance?
To me, it just seemed like they were out of sorts. It's almost like it didn't represent the personality that we're used to seeing the Chiefs play with. Like, we're used to a lot more press man, some blitzing. I understand it's week 1. You don't want to open up the entire playbook, blah, blah, blah. I've always hated that. It was like Herm says, you play to win the game. Get out there, have your dudes do what they do, line them up, play football, be physical, fast, and violent. That's what our defense has been, hanging their hat on. We played. I was just trying to find the breakdown of the stats I was looking at the other day, but I was like, we played so much more zone this game than man than we have in a long time. Like, that's not our guys' MO. Like, we attack, we get guys out of position, we bring some DBs and some secondary players in as force players and blitz guys. We move guys around. It seemed like everyone was just kind of static and floating and like not really attacking, just playing a lot of zone, trying to, catch guys instead of like laying hits and like being the aggressors. It just didn't feel like we were not in attack mode. It didn't feel like at any point.
Yeah, that's a very valid way to describe it. Definitely not a lot of fire, not a lot of energy coming out from the defense. I think it starts up front, and that's my biggest thing, Tom. It starts up front, and it seemed like the tone pretty early. It wasn't getting set.
Yeah, I think that there is reason to be concerned. Again, Chris Jones does so much for this team. Karlaftis had a couple of flashes, and let's be honest, Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. He's going to get the ball out fast. But we talked about this before the game. We had a matchup in Trey Pipkins and some of the other offensive line. The Chiefs should have
ate.
I think should have. I don't even know if they ate, but I would have at least expected a better performance in terms of getting the pressure, getting through. They had some moments, but it was not not as robust as many robust opportunities as I thought there would be. I will say I haven't gone back and watched a whole lot. I know that there were a couple plays where Ashton Gelati looked pretty good when he was in on pass rushing.
Four defensive snaps. He looked pretty damn good though on those 4 snaps. I tell you what.
There was one that I remember him like popping out. And,
yeah, it was down by the end zone. He almost got a safety out of it.
Yeah. No, Ashton Gelati is the one hope. He is the one hope for a pass rush this year in my head.
We'll see. We still got to get Omar out there.
That's true. Yeah.
We knew this going in, right? Depth was a concern, and George's. I love me some George, but he runs hot and cold, and he's not a guy like he's a guy. He like I've said this since he was drafted. He's a really good number 2. He's not your lead edge rusher kind of level of player. Chris is awesome. Chris is one man, and getting older, all that stuff. and also it's early in the season. We know he likes to turn it on later in the year, but and even with some blitzes and stuff, weren't as creative. I know Drew got home twice. That was awesome, excellent. One of those blitzes by Drew was really really impressive because he went through the blocker. I just overall I felt like we just getting pressure was not where I expected or hoped for it to be. So they looked. I don't know whether you want to say that it's because they were gassed or whatever, but you know, in our the top five tacklers in our team, three of them were in the secondary. That's usually not a good sign. It felt like they were not making plays at the line, behind the line, near the line. And when you have that, again, it's a recipe for not getting a lot of production. And I think Coach Reed said that, when it came to the game, we got handled on both sides. He has bigger expectations for the big men up front on both sides of the ball, I think is, to paraphrase what he said.
Kyle, I have a question for you before you start your side. I just did the quick maths on Spotrac. It seems like between our top four defensive linemen, that combined they have about a $41 million cap hit this year between the top four paid defensive linemen. I don't know where that ranks in the NFL as far as D-line spending and whatnot, but I would think $41 million against two backup linemen would get you a little more than that, Kyle. I don't know. That's just me.
So there's a few pieces to this. $40 million is the cap hit for like all five of the top five edge rushers in the league individually. So there's that. We'll just go that route because TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons all make 40 plus a year. Mm-hmm. Now, whether the cap hit is 40 or the ABV, but that part aside. Part A, they don't have, because of the way Spags wants the defensive line to play, he doesn't particularly care or want pure pass rushers. It's why they loved Frank Clark so much. It's why they like George. It's why Mike Dana is still on this roster. It's why Josh Uche is in Philadelphia and not in Kansas City and saw no time on the field last year. I love Spags. Spags is a phenomenal defensive coordinator, probably one of the best defensive coordinators ever. There are a couple of things that he does, that it does it every year, that we talk about it every year, and everybody freaks out about it every year. Part A is he has a type. His defense is supposed to win as an 11-man unit, not one guy on the edge or two guys up front or two guys in the secondary. They have to win as an 11-man group. As Randy pointed out, they felt discombobulated. Well, your most tenured person in the secondary is a fourth-year player. Whichever one you want to pick. Both of them have only maxed 4 years because it's McDuffie and Brian Cook of the guys playing and starting. Justin Reed got hated on by this fan base a lot.
Would have been real nice to have him out there.
He probably would have made a bit of a difference in this game. He also has this habit. I love Spags. I hate his September defense. I hate it. We do this every single season. They come out in these vanilla, basic, near preseason level defensive game plans for the first month of the season, unless we play some specific team like Buffalo or Baltimore or whatever that we see all the time. And I know we see the Chargers a lot, but in the division games, even early in the season, they come out generic. I also think he was anticipating a lot more run than they got, but the zone coverage on every critical down, like third and long, over and over again, you're in zone. Why? For what? You're not getting a rush with 4. And if you're going to blitz, having Chamarri Connor try to cover Ladd McConkey is going to go poorly.
Very poorly.
And everybody on earth knows
yards.
that.
Chamarri Connor gave up 100 yards.
He didn't.
They
completed every pass that they threw at him.
7 targets on 7 targets against Connor.
Yeah. Automatic. Just throw it to Chamarri Connor's way.
And I understand. I understand. You're still not 100% wanting to turn the keys over to Jaden Hicks. He had a couple of oopsies as well in that game. The communication on the back end is a problem. Because when they did get any kind of push, the guys were wide open and Herbert was able to get rid of the ball quickly. Yeah, so
Watson didn't
even more than the offense side of the ball being complementary, with the way Spags builds the defense, it's a completely complementary unit. If one section of the unit has a problem, they're going to have problems. And the problem in this game was their best linebacker, and I'm using best by their terms, not mine. And the guy they have as the starting safety next to Brian Cook got absolutely roasted in the passing game. Both of them did not stop a guy from catching a ball. Neither one. I think it was 7 for 7 and 9 for 9. Okay. They're the 2 names at the top of the list every single week in pass coverage. Chamarri Connor cannot play coverage in a traditional sense. If you want to have him as the safety that's back roaming and do that crap, fine. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. He cannot be your third coverage option in this defense because he can't do it. I know Christian Fulton is still coming back and getting his conditioning. I get all that. However, on 3rd and long, if it's not Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Christian Fulton on the field, I don't know what we're doing. And we saw it time and time and time and time and time and time and time. I don't know how many times I said, oh, look, we're in zone. This is going to be a conversion. And guess what? Every time.
Pretty much every time.
Whether they blitzed or whether they didn't, if they were in zone coverage, they gave it up.
They're cooked. Yeah.
Randy already said it. This is not a zone coverage defense. You play press man. You're physical. You're in their face. But in September, well, maybe we can play zone more this year. No, you can't.
We'll play 10, 15 yards off of every receiver.
You don't teach them zone in practice. You don't teach them zone in camp. How do we know? It's the same thing every single year. Now, by the time this conversation is taking place in week 5 through week 17, none of this will matter. But for the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season, we do this shit every year. He does this. I hate it, but it seems to work because at the end of the year, they're one of the best defenses in football every single time. So while I don't necessarily like the process, as we say all the time with like the front office moves, I don't have to like it. I just have to understand the process. I get the process. I absolutely hate it, but I get it because it's worked. But when it doesn't work, if it doesn't work at any point, they're going to come out and the boo birds and the hate on the social media and all that's going to amplify if we get to week 7 or 8 and it still looks like this. Especially because I'm not a huge fan of washed or older vets that haven't ever been a part of this system. But if you have a safety room that seems to be missing a little bit of veteran leadership because Mike Edwards is on your practice squad and the rest of the guys in that room are less than 4 years in the league, it seems like Justin Simmons would make a lot of sense.
Maybe we should just yank the honey badger when he's done banging the drum.
The problem, I would love to.
Get him down on the field.
He's still under contract with the Saints.
New Orleans won't
even
notice.
if he comes out of retirement.
The Saints won't even notice, bro. They got their own problems down. They don't even notice.
Well, the Saints don't notice anything. Yeah. That's beside the point.
Well, just like anything, I mean, they did draft and are starting Spencer Rattler, so
yeah. Put him in a 49 Dan Sorensen jersey. No one will ever be the wiser. No one will ever be the wiser.
The problem with the defense in this game was threefold, and the play calling of the defense was part of it, and was probably my biggest frustration with the entire thing. Because you're asking guys to do stuff they don't do. They don't do it. You're asking Chamarri Connor and Nick Bolton to cover guys.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
Yeah. It's very easy.
You're asking this defense to play zone coverage. They don't do that.
Yeah.
You're asking a pass rush that is not built to straight up win with 4 all the time. And when you do blitz, you're not throwing your disguised blitzes out there because it's week 1 through 5 and you don't want to show anything to anybody for some reason. But this is what we do every single season. And in the past, they've gotten away with it because the offense has been enough to offset them giving up 400 and God knows how many yards and holding teams to 24 or 27 while they score 30. Now, last year they didn't score 30, but they won 28-27 instead, or 25-24, or whatever it was.
Right.
That didn't happen. And part of that didn't happen because your Hall of Fame defensive tackle was out at edge on the last play on the last drive on 3rd and 14. And instead of being patient and containing, he tried to go win the game. And I love Chris and will live and die a lot with Chris going to win the game. But in that instance, you have to do your one, as they always say, you have to do your 111. Clyde was one of Clyde's favorite quotes. It's one of the defense's favorite quotes over the last few years. And in that instance, and you saw it, Drew was like, hey, man, you're the leader. You're the guy. What was that? Why did you do that? You know better. And Chris didn't want to, and there was a little bit, but that's part of and that's why I'm not super worried about the veteran competitive the motivation, the fixing this side, because they know when it happened. It's why Travis jumped on Jawaan. It's why Drew and Chris got into it a little bit. It's a competitive league. This is one of the most competitive teams there is because their quarterback is one of the most competitive people on the planet, and they all feed off of him. But you can't. He lost his patience because he was frustrated all night because they've been getting their butt kicked all night on the defensive side of the ball. And he tried to just go do it himself and make a play, and it burned him.
Also, though, I will say, I mean, listen, yes, Chris did not do his job on that play. I also don't love the play call of just rushing 4 and dropping back everyone else in a zone on 3rd and
play calling all night.
3rd and 17 or something.
14.
Yeah, that's just
3rd and 14. And they were in man. That was one of the only times they ran man all night. That's why he had all the room
Either
to
way,
run.
I hate the idea of rushing 4 there and not having any other kind of back end. In a situation like that,
and if you're gonna run man on 3rd and 14 and rush 4, Nick Bolton's the spy because you don't want him in coverage anyway.
Well, maybe not Nick.
Well, you don't want him in coverage anyway.
Maybe we just take Nick Bolton off the field. Maybe Jeffrey Bassa or maybe Leo Chenal.
Fine. They're not doing that. He's a rookie in the first.
Maybe Leo Chenal. Maybe Leo Chenal.
Even that, fine. But if you're going to run a 4-man pass rush on 3rd and 14 and play pure man behind it, you're defending the sticks with pure man, and your middle linebacker, whoever it is, should be your spy.
Yeah. I didn't rewatch the play, but I'm sure whatever the middle of my linebacker was doing, he was probably guarding a lot of air. If I just had to guess, I'm guessing he was covering a lot of air.
It's the same, like the Spags defense in September, and even that first couple of weeks of October is just so frustrating because we all watch this team year round, and we know what defense they play and how they play and what their strengths are. And I know Spags knows what their strengths are. He would have to be the luckiest human on the planet to put together the defenses he's put together over his career and not know his own player's strength. But sometimes it's a
little hazy.
The approach to the early season stuff, it's like they're still working on stuff, like they don't feel like they got enough training camp and preseason. And maybe because it's their older coaches and they used to have like triple the time that they do now, and they can't put guys through as many reps. But this is a constant theme we talk about every year. And at some point, you just have to go, hey, it's week 1, 2, 3. It's early. They'll do this, then they'll make the adjustments, and then they'll improve. And I until they prove otherwise, they've earned the benefit of the doubt on that front. But the whole approach to this game from the defensive side of the ball was absolutely frustrating.
Yeah.
Maybe they do it this way just to give us something to talk about for the first couple of weeks.
I'm good with it. I'm good without it. I'll tell you
I
what,
would prefer to not have to talk about
I'd rather watch fun football, That was probably one of the most frustrating parts of Friday. It's just the fact that this whole offseason, we're like, man, we might actually get some fun football again. We might get high explosive offense.
And it took 3 plays.
Fun, we might actually see a fun team again. Nope. Just another miserable
plays.
Just going to be another miserable slag of a season. I'm sure the Chiefs are going to win a good amount of games this regular season. I'm sure, like Kyle said, once December comes around and once the playoffs comes around, I'm sure they're going to look like a completely different team, which they always do. And we're always, aptly forget about the early season woes. But I'm telling you, it's going to be a slag for a little bit, I think. I think it might be a little rough for a little while trying to suffer through some of these growing pains. But
schedule doesn't do them any favors.
Schedule not do them any favors. Yeah, that's right. Anyone else have any other notes about the defensive performance? I know I still have a couple things written down on my notes.
I know we're getting a little bit longer in this episode. I just want to say, as much as maybe I'm just being the optimist here. Those first 2 weeks are rough. I'll go back to what I said earlier about this team being resilient. If that's still in their DNA, I'm not too worried. I'll also say I think Jalen Royals getting incorporated to the offense is going to help. Getting Rashee Rice back is going to help. Getting Xavier Worthy back, it could be worse, right? We lost Rice last year for the season. Sounds like Xavier is going to be week to week, right? And not Eric Berry,
Yeah, not Eric Berry style.
Actually week to week.
Hopefully.
Knock on wood, Tom.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Does need surgery, all that stuff. So I think there's reason to be optimistic. It is very much frustrating because I think we were all excited to see this offense with its weapons. I was encouraged by the offensive line coming together a little bit, even with Jawaan Taylor's struggles. All that said, the defense issues are still the defensive issues, and we can talk about the coverage pieces and all that stuff. I think a good pass rush covers up some of that because you don't have those players who aren't good in coverage left out there as long as they were.
Sure.
So we'll see how all that plays out. I'm trying to be optimistic. Maybe once we get Omar Norman-Lott in, he'll be just a little tiny version of Aaron Donald, and all of our problems will be solved.
I'm glad you went with a wild comparison like that. I thought you were going to be more tame, but I'm glad you went.
I thought it was appropriate. I think it's a realistic expectation for.
You got to take a big
swing.
It's cut Juju. Now Omar Norman-Lott is Aaron Donald 2.0.
Maybe Aaron Donald, yeah. Hey,
literally, actually, Aaron Donald went back to Tennessee.
Reincarnate.
Get out of the Rams contract. Wanted to play with Chris Jones. Omar Norman-Lott.
He's taking big cuts this year. He's taking big swings. I like it.
I need Ashton Gillotte to be healthy.
We didn't see much of him Friday night, but whatever, it's fine.
I need Gillotte to not be banged up because it looked like he got hurt on special teams, and that's part of the reason we didn't see more of him. But they need him to develop rapidly, and they need him to be a factor for this defense. And somebody else besides Chris, and as you guys mentioned, George is a 2, and that's fine. Somebody has to be able to win a one-on-one matchup. I don't care if it's Jerry Tillery. I don't care if it's Charles Omenihu. I don't care if it's Mike Dana. I don't care if you put Leo Chenal at edge. Somebody has to start making a difference on the edge of this defense.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see if anyone steps up. I will say this. I mentioned this pre-show. I'm out on Charles Omenihu. I'll tell you that much right now. I think we're late enough that he might, if he was listening, he might not be listening anymore. I don't even care. I'm out on Charles Omenihu. I put an even meaner word on my notes, but I don't even got to go that far. I'm just saying I'm out on him. I've been a big Charles Omenihu ever since he came out, and he had played some pretty good snaps for us in the limited time that he's been here. I'm out on him. I think he's washed. I think the injuries have done too much for him. I'm glad he has all these motivational Twitter posts and videos saying he's going to be back and fiery, and I don't think so. I think he's cooked, and until he proves me otherwise, I'm out on him.
Garrett, did you write frick in your notes?
Did I what?
Did you write frick in your notes?
No.
Were you using bad language?
No, I mean, it wasn't that. I called him a bum. I mean, let's be honest. I called him a bum. And I'm sorry, but I'm out on him. Mike Dana can get that bum status too. Honestly, he is a tackling dummy out there as well. Just watching all those guys just stood up play after play with no rush. It was
moving slow.
It was pretty bad. Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but it just felt like the D-line as a whole lacked a little bit of spark. But
it felt like they had no energy.
Yeah. A lot of these guys too. It's just like we talked earlier about Spags' prototype or the guys he's looking for. Like that's just not in their DNA. Like Mike Dana is not a quick twitch, explosive athlete. Malik Herring is not an explosive athlete. Like Charles.
Why do we keep Malik Herring on this roster, man?
Like,
why?
Exactly. Like those three guys, they're not.
He's just a human traffic cone.
Yeah, they're not built for that quick twitch, fast pass rush. Like they are dual purpose. Give me a little bit of pass rush, hold up against the run, try to eat up block type guys, but you still at some point have to win a one-on-one at some point. Like you have to create pressure. You have to be able to push the pocket. You have to be able to make a difference somehow. Like, yeah, I cannot figure out how Mike Dana is still on this team because, I mean, he had one so-so season and so-so was what, 5 sacks?
Yeah, that got him a contract and now we're stuck with him.
I mean, like, I've never seen like a true flash or him make like a real like difference-making play or like take over a series or like I've never seen like any of those guys do that. They're like,
no.
That's just not the guys that we have. Like situational pass rush, put the beast, like put death row down in a 7. Like,
yeah, for real.
Unleash the beast. Like you have a guy there that can play multiple roles, and in situational instances like that, 3rd and long or whatever, light it up. I mean, twist him up. Do something. Like,
better than having him just out there in coverage or something. Like just have him rush the passer.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Randy. They don't. I don't know if it's a philosophy thing because a lot of this is them trying to play the run before they play the pass.
We don't do a lot of stunts when in pass.
They don't do like any games with the D-line. No. It's line up, win your one-on-one. Well, the problem is you don't have anybody that's truly a threat to win your one-on-one other than Chris. So if you're not going to run any games or do any movement or anything like that other than your exotic blitzes, which you don't call until week 7, it doesn't make sense. And I know
they all line up and they just run straight forward, and then they get stood up instantly, and then that's the play.
Well, that's the other part is we talk about development and stuff and seeing guys add things to their bag. I don't know that anybody outside of Chris has a true pass rush move that they've really added to their toolkit. Like,
yeah,
the
bull rush thing is one thing, but that's not a pass rush move. That's just I'm stronger than you.
George wins on effort. That's
yes.
Well, the biggest thing with George too is I mean, yeah, he wins on effort a lot, and he'll win around the outside. But the problem is that he's just too slow and not bendy enough. I mean, we talk about bendy a lot for edges, but it's like if he's winning, but it takes him a while to get around the edge. Like he going around the outside is just going to be slower for him. Like he needs to go either develop the bull rush more or get some inside moves or something
and that's the thing. There's not a lot of variety in these pass rush moves. There's not a lot of differentiation. The tackle or the guard pretty much knows what's coming. And if you know what you're going to get, blocking it is just a matter of technique at that point more than anything. So if you know what you're getting, you can get to what it takes to defend it. That's why George has not played football as long as the majority of the rest of the guys that play in this league. That's fine. I was hoping, working with Tamba as much as he has been, we would start to see more hand fighting moves, more inside out stuff. I know Tamba can't teach him how to fold himself in half and run full speed still around the corner like Tamba did. Yeah. That's not really a teachable skill. Most people can't do that. Tamba was an alien. I understand that. But pass rush is a lot more of chess than it is of brute strength test. And it feels like a lot of the edges that we've got are playing checkers, not chess.
It's a lot of straight. There's a lot of straightforward movement.
Yeah, not a lot of trickery or Queen's Gambits or anything happening out there. I'll tell you what. So, my last point on the entire game and just the entire feel of the Chiefs that I wanted to mention is just, and I believe it was Matt Lane who initially tweeted this out. Like we mentioned, like the Chiefs, they did only lose by 6 points, right? And we are making this like it's another big blowout loss or whatever. And ultimately they came out with like a C to D, probably a D level game, right? That's pretty fair to say. The problem, I couldn't tell you the last time the Chiefs didn't play a C to D level game. Like it seems like they are always in that range. And
first couple games of the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I mean that would be one of them. But like throughout the most of the season last year, C to D level games, and yeah, they were still winning the games, which is fine. Which is why I mentioned that it's going to be another long season, I think, of kind of struggling through some of these. But it just seems like they got to do something to get out of this, to raise their level of game. Because even though it's acceptable, I mean, they can win games, but they need to do more. They need to do more to establish themselves. And yes, it's September, and yes, a lot of these games, how they're played won't necessarily matter as opposed to what the final result is and all that stuff. It's just you need to come out better. You need to threaten more. You need to do more out there. You can't just keep on rolling out a poor game plan and expecting Patrick Mahomes to bail you out and expecting a last-minute, heroic field goal block or a last-minute fumble by the opposing team's center or something crazy. Like, you can't rely on that to win you games reliably. I remember a couple of years ago, Kirk Cousins with the Vikings, he had 1 year, I believe, where he was like 8-0 in one-score games, like 3-point games or something, and he was 8-0. And then the next year, same stat, and he was like 1-7. Yeah, it's like, it's that's how volatile the NFL is, and if that's how you're building your whole identity of winning only winning close games or only playing close games, eventually you're going to start to lose some of those one-score games, and the breaks aren't going to happen as frequently. There was plenty of times the Chiefs could have got a break to save them from that game, like 3rd and 14 at the end. Herbert could have fucked it up. Herbert could have done something, or someone could have done something. Their center could have fallen over when he snapped the ball, and all of a sudden we'd be looking at a 1-0 victory, and it would be the same situation. But eventually, like, you're not going to get all of those breaks, and they will start to pile up and really hurt team morale, I think, once those start stacking up, and they're going to have to take a look at themselves sooner rather than later and realize, like, hey, what team do we need to be, and how can we execute it? Because there just wasn't a lot of execution, wasn't a lot of energy, fire, just nothing. I mean, flat is the best way, but if you could some greater than flat, like Nebraska, like just they were Nebraska, not a hill in sight, you were on the same elevation the entire game, and it's just,
I thought that was a shot at the Cornhuskers, not at the landscape. Never mind.
Well, maybe a little bit of that.
That's
too.
What I thought he was. I was like,
a little bit. I mean, Randy is a resident Nebraska fan. They have. Can't say they didn't look a little bit like Nebraska or some of these.
I would have loved to have them put up 60 points like Nebraska did this week. That would have been awesome.
They did that this week. What did they do?
Yeah, I'd also have loved to have played Alcorn State this week.
Yeah,
too,
what did they do week 1 versus a much tougher opponent? Well, that's the thing.
Dylan Raiola didn't put up a big fight.
So that's my final big take of it. I don't know what you guys think, but
we would be remiss not to talk about one of the most impressive things I've seen on a football field in
that's
the
true. This is
last
a good way to end it.
20-something
Yeah.
years.
This is a good way to.
The end of half,
the highlight of the game.
the end of half sequence.
The quick
now,
switch field goal.
Now, partially got helped because the Chargers rookie running back decided to run out of bounds and preserve time that he didn't need to, and I thought Jim Harbaugh was going to have a stroke. But the way that first of all, the way they got into field goal position, the plays that were made, the things that were done in a small time window, we know that Patrick does that. That's what they do. They're really good at it. I wish they'd played the whole offense like that the whole time instead of just the last
they've played in
minute and a half of the game.
Minute and a half mode,
or minute and a half of each half and each in end of half and end of game scenario.
Someone just needs to put a thing over the play clock and the time clock. And it's like, Andy, trust me, we only have a minute left in the whole game, actually. I know the game just started. We only have a minute left. You have to call something good here. Okay.
But please. The awareness, so the very last segment of this is they run a play out to the flat, they get a completion, but Noah Gray gets pushed backwards while going out of bounds. And if you're not familiar in the NFL, in order for the clock to stop when you go out of bounds, you have to be moving forward. He's aware enough to notice, hey, they're winding the clock. He runs the ball to the spot. He spots it for them, basically. And in that same instance, everybody on the field that's on the offensive side of the ball is aware enough to sprint off the field. And Dave Tobe and everybody, people love to shit on Dave Tobe, and it's one of the things that drives me the most nuts about this fan base. You saw why they're so good in one score and tight game scenarios in that end of half sequence. He had that field goal unit ready to go on the sideline. They got everybody out onto the field and a field goal kicked. And there was like 12 seconds or less on the clock to do it with. And they kicked it with 2 seconds left.
I believe when Noah Gray went down, there was actually 13 seconds left on the clock as he was tackled.
Well, this team in 13 is a thing that they
Which
just
was
love.
Pretty, that was pretty funny. You know, that was pretty funny. Yeah, just a phenomenal execution.
To run that fire drill field goal, and then not only run a fire drill field goal, but it's a 59-yard field goal.
Yeah, not a short one. It was impressive.
And Harrison hammers it.
And the biggest thing, too, obviously, like you kind of mentioned, Kyle, Noah immediately after getting tackled just runs the ball to the spot. That wasn't a K-ball. If you're not familiar, kickers have their own specific balls called K-balls that are broken in and meant to be kicked, as opposed to normal balls, which are meant to be caught and thrown. He just had to go out there and basically had to just kick.
Balls and Tom Brady balls, but
But Harrison had to go out there and kick with basically a brand new ball that's not broken in at all, not meant for kicking, and he just absolutely drills a 59-yarder. Like it was one of the most impressive sequences you'll ever see. Special teams coordinators are going to be looking at that tape and teaching that for literally probably the end of time. Like that is probably the best. That's the best example ever of a fire drill field goal in a situation like that. Realizing it's fourth down, that you can't spike the ball. Like everyone was on the same page immediately. You know, the special teams offensive line was on the field or on the sideline, like waiting. And then, you know, it's great that the couple of guys from the offense remaining that, you know, played different positions.
I watched Hollywood Brown run all game.
Yeah, like it's the guys who were staying on the field who then figured out the position they need to line up and all that stuff. Like,
snap, hold, all
Noah caught the ball and got pushed out of bounds with 17 seconds. He kicked it with 3 seconds left.
Damn. Yeah. So
that's hard to do. Like really hard to do.
Yeah. We run that scenario in practice a ton, and it is hard to do.
Yeah. So that's the one highlight that we have from the game that we can really, besides, you know, Mahomes doing a couple Mahomes magic stuff.
Again, this is one of those, and I'm sure Seth Kaiser, shout out Seth Kaiser, will write about it. One of those games where we're going to have some of Mahomes' like best, like again, he completed the parallel. And he's done it multiple times now.
Yeah.
I don't understand how the mechanics of being able to throw a ball with your feet not not even just like your feet.
You're parallel.
I'm not so convinced that
he was parallel to the ground.
Yes, but and then his whole arm motion. So that is all arm. That is all like and balance.
Nothing to torque your body off of besides the air.
I mean,
his core strength is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I feel like I don't even know.
It's one of those you can't. We and not just us, but especially a lot of the media and a lot of people of other fan bases. This is one of those that was one of those things and one of those plays where it will get forgotten by a lot of people, but it's why there all of the discourse and discussions about whose league it is and who's the best quarterback. Stop. There is not a question about the quarterback position. There's a lot of questions. We talked about a lot of them tonight as far as this team is concerned. The quarterback position is not that. And it hasn't been since the day he got on the field as a starter till now. He does things all the time to where you're almost numb to just how good he is.
Yep. All right. Well, with that being said, let's get out of here. We've taken up enough of your guys' time. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and rocking with us on this 1.5 hour long rant episode. I'm sure the next ones won't be as long, simply because if it follows the trend of last season, we're going to be coming on here and kind of saying the same thing over and over, unless something drastic changed. I think it's going to be shades of last year, at least for a little while. So let's just bear through it. At the end of the day, the season's not over. The Chiefs are still going to be in the conversation for a Super Bowl. It's going to take a little bit of a bumpy ride to get there. So thank you all for tuning in, watching, and rocking with us. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and X. Nope, sorry. I messed that up. It's Facebook, X, Instagram. I don't know. It's still weird for me to say X, but now I feel like I have to say it at this point because it's just like, I guess it's here to stay.
The app on Android still says formerly known as Twitter, so either way, you're fine.
Well, that's kind of clutch. Yeah, that is kind of good to see. So yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back on Friday. We're gonna do a live on Friday to preview the Eagles game, Super Bowl rematch. Obviously, all the hype and stuff. The Eagles, they look like a pretty good team coming out week 1, so it's gonna be interesting to see. So be sure to follow us. Be sure to get us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else you get your podcasts at. We'll be there, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Kingdom Says.